Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something I think is pretty cool.
All right.
It's MoodleBox running on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we've got some info here pulled from a web page that really breaks down this setup.
Okay.
And I think the big question is,
Yeah.
what is this thing?
Right.
And why would anyone want to use it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the point of this whole
Yeah,
thing, right?
yeah,
What,
yeah.
yeah.
So MoodleBox on a Raspberry Pi, just for starters.
Sure. So you're essentially taking like a full-on e-learning platform like Moodle,
Okay.
thing like what a lot of schools use for their online courses,
Mm-hmm.
and you're packing it all onto this tiny little computer like a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, wow.
So instead of needing like a server somewhere,
Right.
far off in the cloud or whatever,
Right.
the whole learning environment is right there on that little board.
Okay, so like right off the bat,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Right. Well, the sources here actually point to some pretty compelling reasons. So especially for like teachers, specifically ones teaching English as a foreign language,
Mm-hmm.
it's really good for making sure students are honest during like quizzes and tests because it creates a closed environment. Right. There's no internet access.
So they can't use like Google Translate or...
Exactly. Yeah. No web-based translation, no AI tools. It's all totally local.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you can really make sure that the students are actually learning the material.
Right. It's fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then this webpage even mentions like, what about places where there just isn't reliable internet?
Right. Like maybe in a more remote area or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
even like I was thinking like a field trip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How would this work for that?
So the cool thing is it basically turns the Raspberry Pi into like its own little learning hub.
Oh, yeah.
So it creates its own Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
Students can connect to it and they can access all the materials, even submit their work.
Without needing to connect to the internet.
Exactly. Yeah, it's totally self-contained.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so, even in places with no internet or spotty connection,
Right.
you can still have like a full e-learning setup.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then there's also the privacy angle.
Right. Running Moodle locally.
Yeah, so instead of relying on like a third-party server for all your learning data,
Right.
this puts the school or the institution in direct control of that data.
Right.
So it's a lot more secure and private.
Yeah. That's a big deal these days.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, we're talking honesty in assessments. We're talking offline accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking privacy.
Mm-hmm.
All pretty huge things.
Yeah.
But how do you actually get this running? Like, how complicated is it?
So generally speaking, it's not too bad.
Okay.
You basically prep an SD card
Yeah.
with the MoodleBox software image.
Okay.
You put that into the Raspberry Pi, and then you can connect to the Pi's network
Okay.
using like a laptop or a tablet or whatever. And then you access the Moodle platform right there in your web browser.
So you can like create courses and all that.
Exactly, yeah. You configure it, set it up how you want, and then start building your courses.
Okay. And then there was this other thing that stood out to me too, which was the accessibility features.
Yeah, the page actually goes into a lot of detail about that.
Yeah. What was it that really stood out to you?
Just like how much you can customize.
Okay.
Like it's not just font sizes, although you can adjust that too.
Right.
But you can change the site colors.
Okay.
There are these options like R, A, A, A.
Okay.
Not totally sure what those refer to. But then there's like background colors, font type, font spacing, image, visibility line height,
Wow.
link highlighting text color. Like it's pretty impressive.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And there's even a button to reset everything back to the defaults,
Okay.
which is nice if you get in there and kind of make a mess of things.
Right. Yeah.
So you can always go back to how it was.
Okay. So it sounds like they really put a lot of thought into making this accessible for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a really well-designed platform.
Now, what about like navigating the platform itself?
So the page mentions something called animated navigation. So it sounds like they've made the interface pretty visually engaging. And there's even a note about if the page doesn't load right, just click and it should work.
Okay.
And then you've got your standard Moodle elements too, like an information block and options to expand or collapse all the content blocks.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah, so it seems pretty user-friendly.
And who can access this whole thing?
Well, it looks like there's guest access.
Okay.
And also a login option, so you can have some resources open to everyone.
Right.
And then other things that are just for enrolled users.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility.
So, okay, MoodleBox on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah!
Sounds like a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah, it's a really neat solution for creating your own little e-learning environment.
Especially when you think about, needing control over your data. or if you're in a place with no internet,
Uh,
or you need things to be really accessible for everyone.
right, all those things make this a pretty attractive option.
And the fact that they have all those accessibility features.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that level of detail.
Yeah, it shows that they're really thinking about making this work for as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
And it kind of makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
with the need for more adaptable learning tools,
Right.
ones that are secure and
Hmm.
and maybe don't rely on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, what other cool things could we be seeing with open source platforms and readily available hardware?
Oh, for sure. It's a really exciting area, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been really fascinating, and I'm sure our listeners will get a lot out of it.
I hope so.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.